I've got the best settings for NBA 2K25. In this year's game, there's a lot of new settings, so I'm gonna be breaking down every single one, so that way you guys have the best experience possible. So drop a like and let's jump into it. The first thing you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna head to features, and then you're going to want to head to customize HUD. After that, you're gonna wanna go to your shot feedback, and you're going to want to change this to all shots. The reason why you wanna set this to all shots is so that way not only can you see how well you timed your shot, but you can also see how covered your shot was. So if you got lightly contested, or if your shot was just open instead of wide open, or even if you were heavily contested, the game is going to tell you, as you can see here. However, by having it on simple, you will be able to have instant greens. So as you can see here, by having it on simple, if I green the shot, it'll say excellent immediately. So you could pick or choose between these two, but I highly recommend putting on all shots, so that way you can see how covered you were on your shot. The next thing you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna head to your perfect release animation and sound effects. In here, you're going to want to change your visibility to all shots as well. This is going to make it so you can see the green animation for anyone on the court. For your graphic, you can set this to whatever you want, and then for your placement, I like to set mine to above player because I like to see my green animation above my player. But if you guys would rather it be above the rim, just keep it on by the rim. The next thing you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna head over to your shot meter shots. And then you're going to want to change your visibility for your shots to off. This is going to turn off your jump shot meter, and this is going to give you a 20% boost to your green window. I also highly recommend doing this for your layups, as this also gives you a similar boost to your green window when you're timing layups. Same thing for free throw. If you turn off the meter, you will receive this green window boost. And if you're a returning 2K player, you may be confused because the setting is normally in the controller settings. However, they did switch the shot meter setting to the HUD settings menu this year, so this is where you turn it off. The rest of these settings in here, these are really all preference, and these are just changing the location of icons on your screen. So I'm not going to waste your time, and now we're going to head over to the controller settings. So once you head over to your controller settings, you're going to immediately want to go to your shot timing profile. I highly recommend changing this to high risk reward. The reason why you want to change this to high risk reward is because this is going to give you the biggest possible green window. If you're new to the game and you're not great at timing your shots, I recommend putting on low risk reward, as this will allow you to actually make whites or early or late releases. But if you change it to high risk reward, basically this makes it green or miss. So you have to perfectly time your shot. However, it's easier to perfectly time your shot with this setting enabled. So I highly recommend having the setting enabled, because when you're playing online, the sliders are already going to be tuned to work against you and make it harder for you to knock down shots. So by having the shot meter off combined with high risk reward, you're gonna give yourself the greatest possible chance to green and knock down your shots. For your layup timing profile, I highly recommend doing the same thing, high risk reward. However, you definitely will not get severely punished if you want to keep this on normal. So I highly recommend keeping this on normal risk reward or high risk reward if you're good at timing your layups. For your free throw timing, keep this on user timing. And then your shot timing visual cue, I highly recommend going with release or push. Basically what this setting does is it changes at which point within the jump shot you are releasing your shot button. So if you set this to jump, you are going to release the ball right as your player is starting to jump off the ground in his jump shot. If you set this to set point, you're going to release the shot button when the player is at the set point of his jump shot. If you set this to push, you're going to release your shot right as your player is pushing the ball up. And if you set this to release, you're going to release your shot button right as the player is releasing the ball from his hands. I highly recommend setting this to push, because I find that most of the time, all you have to do is just release the shot button right when the player brings the ball to his forehead. So I find this the easiest shot timing visual cue. And again, shot timing visual cue does not change the speed of the actual jump shot. It just changes the point of which you release the shot button during the actual jump shot animation itself. For shot meter input type, I recommend keeping this on all, because we already turned off the shot meter, so it really does not matter. Pro stick function, you're gonna wanna keep this on default. If you were to change this to dribble moves, you will only be able to do dribble moves with the right stick. And you don't want this, because you want to be able to trigger layups and dunks with your right stick. It's actually very important to be using your right stick for layups and dunks instead of your shot button. So I do not recommend switching it to that. And then of course, you definitely do not want to switch it to shots, because then you are not going to be able to do dribble moves. So definitely keep this on default. For your pro stick orientation and off-ball offense mode, keep these on absolute. These just make it so that way your right stick movements are the same regardless of where your player is on the floor. Double team reaction, keep this on auto. Help defense button function, keep this on double team. Call for pick and roll versus fade, you want to keep this on manual. Player icons, keep these on. Skip pass, keep this enabled. Icon lead passing, keep this on. Pro stick pass type, I like to set this to flashy because when I bring up my icons by pressing R1 or RB if you're on Xbox, I never use the right stick to pass. So by changing this to flashy, I'm able to flick my right stick while holding R1 towards whoever I want to pass to, and this is going to be a flashy pass every single time. It's really hard to accidentally throw a flashy pass by using this method, and I just like it because it's a guaranteed flashy pass every single time. For your icon passing, you're going to want to change this to full receiver control. The reason why I like this is because if you're a play now or my team guy, you are going to be able to bring up your icons and you're going to be able to hold down the icon of the receiver you want to pass to. And then with your left stick, you can actually take control of him. You can actually send him on a cut manually, or you can actually bring him to yourself to get the ball if you're in a tight situation. So I really like this because it's going to give you full control over your receivers. For receiver control, you can either change this to full receiver control, but since we already changed icon passing to full receiver control, I highly recommend changing this to handoff / pitch pass. What this is going to do is by holding the circle or B button if you're on Xbox, your nearest receiver is going to come to you for a handoff. So if you're in a tight situation or you pick up the ball on accident, you can have the nearest person to you automatically come to you and receive a handoff from you. For your hold lob pass button, this is going to be triangle or Y if you're on Xbox, and you're going to want to change this to your preference. So cut to basket means if you're holding down triangle or Y, the nearest receiver to you is actually going to cut to the basket. If you keep this on skip pass, you're going to be able to throw a skip pass using this function. I personally like to keep this on skip pass. However, I don't really use this function because I just stick with icon passing for pretty much all of my passing scenarios. For your passive dribble hand switches, this is going to be enabled by default. You do not want this enabled. Disable this immediately. This is one of the most important settings to change, because if you do not disable this, your player is going to be doing dribble moves without your input, and you don't want this. You want full control over your ball handler at all times. You don't want him doing random crossovers or random ball hand switches, so make sure you go in and you disable this immediately. For pro stick defense, I recommend keeping this on camera relative. They did change this by default to camera relative this year. It used to be on absolute, but that's because of the way that they changed the right stick defense in this year's game. If you change this to absolute, it's going to be different than in years past. However, definitely try out both and see which one you like more. For shading indicator, keep this on. For who to guard, also keep this on. And then for your box out assist strength, I recommend putting this up to 100. This is going to make it so that way you get more sticky in the paint when you're going for a box out, and you're going to be able to actually back into your box outs a lot easier. For your pass target profile, this is really only for offline games. It doesn't work online because a lot of people used to cheese with it by turning on openness. Now, what openness does is it makes it so by pressing X or A if you're on Xbox, it'll automatically throw to the most open receiver. Again, this does not work in online modes, but if you're mainly an offline player, I actually really recommend putting this on openness because, I mean, just put it on and you will see you're going to start throwing dots. And then the last thing I like to change is I like to change my motion blur. So if you go to your normal settings and then you scroll down, you will be able to turn off your motion blur. I just turn this all the way down. I don't like my players getting all blurry on the screen. I like things to be smooth. So I just turn my motion blur all the way down. And that's going to do it for the best settings. If you guys found that helpful, be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out. Peace.